we did that. We had also then went through all the hoops, got all the licensing to become notaries. Mobile notaries. So that was going to be the next thing. And it just, that also is not our, Karena's like, what are we doing? This is just more paperwork. And it's like, I'm already in finance and having to do paperwork. And job. This isn't fun.
Hey Islanders, and welcome to episode 157 of the Camano Voice. Today I speak with the founders of Tralala Art de Fleur. Please welcome Karena and Nevratakis and Jacqueline McDermott. Hi, I'm Brandon Erickson, and you're listening to the Camano Voice podcast, where I interview local business owners, comedians, singers, and more. I dive into their backstory to find out how they got where they are, what are some of the tips for you to do the same, and find out where they are going. Tune in every week as I interview more of the people you see every day. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice, where we release a new episode every Tuesday. How's your guys' week going? Getting off of another week for us. Kind of had a crazy weekend. Just a lot going on, as I mentioned before, with my mom, and just kind of dealing with all of that as a family. So just kind of working through all that. Kind of a down weekend, but we're back and bouncing back from it all. I've been trying to play around with an idea of maybe adding, something a little bit more structure to the podcast, in the sense of maybe having I already have basically once a month I do the Featured Artist of the Month podcast. But I'm thinking of trying to throw in another one. So if anybody has suggestions of what that should be, some other thoughts I had were just talking a little bit about what events and things are going on the island, maybe for that month. So kind of an overview. I'm really, as everyone is very busy, but with the kids doing so many different events and work being the way it is, there's a lot going on, and so I'm trying to figure out how do I maybe cut down a little bit, but still keep a rhythm of once a week podcast going. So if you guys have any ideas, email me at voice@CamanoCommons or reach out to me on Instagram at the Camano Voice. I'd love to hear from you guys if you have ideas. Want to keep going with the podcast, but just trying to figure out a way to make it more manageable. This is September, so I'll probably talk about this more as I get closer. I do plan on taking the month of December and probably beginning of January off this year. We just get really crazy busy here at the marketplace, and other people are busy, so it's harder to get those interviews scheduled. So again, I might do a Christmas special in there or something like that, but for the most part, probably off the mic the month of December. So anyways, that's my housekeeping for the day. Okay, into the podcast. So today I'm interviewing Karena Nevratakis and Jacqueline McDermott. And as I mentioned in the intro, they are the founders of Tralala Art de Fleur. And you may actually have seen them here. They popped up here at the marketplace a couple times over the summer. Hopefully they'll be doing so more so as we get into next year's summer as well. But they just started the business this year, turned a VW bus into their primary mode of transporting the flowers and setup. If you've seen them outside, you see that they do a fantastic job getting set up. And they sell art, flowers. They've even sold baked goods, little these gluten-free cookies that I am not a gluten-free person, and I don't usually enjoy gluten-free items, but their sugar cookies that they made were very good. So, but they are such joyful gals, and they really are just so sweet when you're talking with them. They're both cancer survivors, so I feel like that puts your perspective of life in a different way when you realize how fast things can change. So we get into a lot of that and more in this podcast. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Karena and Jacqueline. Hey Islanders, and welcome to another episode of the Camano Voice. Today I'm here with the founders of Tralala Art de Fleur, Karena Nevratakis and Jacqueline McDermott. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah. So before we get started, tell us a little bit about Karena and Jacqueline.
Okay, well, we grew up in Washington. Lived in California for my first 5 years and then moved here. My dad was military, so in the Navy. So we went from California to Washington and ended up in Marysville.
And moved to Alaska for a few years.
Yeah,
And then
Anchorage,
back
Alaska.
down. Yeah.
So, but
We traveled quite a bit.
we did growing up, and my dad ended up deciding to retire in Marysville. So we did grow up in this area. Jackie ended up in Eastern Washington, and lived there for how many years? Were you there, sis?
Almost 20 years.
Okay.
But before that, I had lived in the Midwest for a few years. We brought Seattle coffee to Madison, Wisconsin. So did that for a few years and then moved to New York City for a couple years after that, and then back to Washington State. We were homesick, so.
Okay.
So yeah, traveled a little bit, but yeah, back here, and then ended up, we have another sister who lives in Eastern Washington, and she moved there first way back in the early 90s. And then I went to visit for a summer and decided to move over. So I was there for almost 20 years before moving back over here. So, yeah. And so we hadn't got to see each other for quite a while. And so it's been great getting to catch up and hang out. And we've always wanted to start a business together, but it just never worked out timing-wise. And so, yeah, the timing is good. And so we went for it.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where are you guys in the birth order and everything?
I'm middle child, so I have an older sister who's 3 years older, and then Karena's 6 years younger.
Okay.
But we get asked if we're twins all the time.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you guys said you grew up in Marysville then. How was that for you growing up in that area?
It's fun. It's changed so much over the years, but when we first moved there, I think there was like a Dairy Queen and a Kmart.
Right.
What's going on? So it's definitely evolved, but it was a lot of fun. The community there was amazing. We got to make a lot of really good friends, and the school was great. We went to Marysville Pilchuck High School, so
nice.
Yeah, it was a great place to be.
Nice. So then, as you guys were growing up then, what were you guys kind of, I guess, individually, what were you guys thinking as far as, like, what you wanted to do with your lives and where you wanted to go? And
I always thought I would be in fashion or interior design of some sort, because that's my creativity is fashion, design, party planning, event planning. That's kind of what I had a passion for. But at 19, I ended up working at Roy Robinson Chevrolet and saw the opportunity in their finance department and thought, you know what, I could easily do that job. And it turned into a 28-year-long career in the finance industry. So it was great. By the time I was 19, I was a director running the department and got into management very early. And it's been wonderful, but things have shifted in our lives due to cancer and some unforeseen events that life's short. And I thought, you know what, I have other passions and things that I want to experience, so I decided to step back, and I'm semi-retired. I only work a couple days a month right now in the finance industry, and the rest of my time is devoted to me and Jackie's business. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
very cool.
I've always been more of the free spirit, so I've always wanted to pursue art, but I got married at a very young age, started a family, and actually bought a motorhome and moved into it with my family at an age before that became a popular thing. And traveled, like I said, moved to the Midwest, moved to New York, came back, and so I've always been in more of a support role. I did billing for 10 years for my husband's physical therapy practice, and just raising the kids. I have five daughters, and so but I've always thought art would be my thing. You know, I've always wanted to paint. Every time I'd go to museums or galleries, it just in my heart was like, this is what I really want to do, but just life got in the way. And so it was actually one weekend back in 2012, I went to a funeral service of a relative, and she was not a professional artist, but she had done art her entire life. And I wasn't close with, it was a relative of my husband's. So they had this service at a beautiful winery. They had her year's worth of artwork displayed at this service, and it just, the light bulb clicked, and I was like, what if I died tomorrow and I never got to pursue my art? I'm doing it. So I went home that weekend. I signed up for my very first workshop over here on Whidbey Island.
Nice.
And I was like, I'm doing it. So It actually coincided at a time when Karena was going through her cancer journey, so we were able to come together. We rented a little cabin on Whidbey Island, and she was struggling at the time, so that was a little challenging, going to this workshop during the day and then coming back to the cabin, seeing her struggle. But it just started from there, and then I just kept pursuing the art side of things. So ended up connecting with a publisher in San Francisco, so I got exposure, different places, Wayfair and Pier 1 Imports and places like that started carrying my work.
Okay.
And then got into a couple of galleries over in Coeur d'Alene and Spokane area, and then started my own little gallery, and then my cancer hit. So that put a halt on my passion for a little bit. So, yeah.
So I was curious, when you were moving around, you said your husband has did you say physical therapy?
Practice. Yeah, I've been married twice, actually. So my first husband is who I was traveling around with, and we actually started the coffee company, moved that over to the Midwest. We had an investor who wanted to open several locations around Madison, around the Capitol.
Yeah.
And so we brought in the Seattle-style coffee bars, and people are like, what is this? We're used to farmers' coffee, And we're like, no, these are lattes. They're really good. Trust us, So we had a lot of fun with that. It was a great experience. And then our daughters got offered modeling contracts in New York. So we're like, you know what? Let's just go. We're going to have some fun. And at that point, the coffee companies were, being handled. And so we were like, we're just going to go for a summer. We'll see how it goes. And we ended up there for almost 2 years. And it was a crazy experience. It was a whirlwind. 3 little kids in New York City. And he was getting into tech, and so he was doing all the studying to learn cybersecurity and all of that. So that was his gig, and I was running the kids around the city every day. And so it was quite an experience.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I can always say I can drive anywhere in the world now because I've driven in New York.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that I don't think I'd be up for that.
No.
Awesome. So, and then Karena, when you were stepping into the management role at the finance. What were things because I feel like you probably had a lot of people, because finance is an older industry, there's just people that have been there for a long time. So you're stepping into this role where you're managing people that are well above your age, well more probably experienced and stuff. What were things that you kind of did to try and ease that and gain the respect and everything?
I think because it was a group of women that were working in the finance department at the time, and I was lucky because it was a very supportive group. And I think along the way, they had respect of the fact that I had trained throughout all the different departments in the dealership before I landed there. So I think they had my back, basically. I think it was just the right management team, the right employees underneath of me. And I think they just saw the drive that I had. So just learning from my mentors within the dealership and outside of the dealership, I think just having a really good supportive group makes such a difference. So it was the best experience I could possibly have stepping in at such a young age.
Nice. And did you continue with that company, or did you move on to new ones?
I stayed with that company for over 20 years.
Okay.
So the only reason I left is when I got the cancer, I realized I'd started there right out of high school. I had not experienced any other job. And I thought, I wanted to take a couple of years and travel. I'd always been a little bit more shy and introverted when it came to traveling by myself. I wasn't very independent. I always had people going with me. And I thought, you know what? I wanted to step into a role where I could train finance department. So I actually took a job with a company in Florida.
Okay.
My boss actually lived in Maine, so farthest end of the states that you could be. But it was fun because I got to go to Hawaii, California, Las Vegas, Florida, basically all of the West Coast. I was training finance department, so it was just a great opportunity to be independent, get my own rental car, stay in the hotels by myself, go to dinner by myself, which I still don't like to do, but it forced me out of my comfort zone of just, life is short. I want to be able to experience other things. So it was a good opportunity for 2 years.
Yeah.
So I did that. I ended up, unfortunately, my kids were in high school at the time, and I had a son who was getting a little unruly, so mom had to come back home and rein him in a little bit. I think we all go through those phases with our kids. So it put me back into finance for a while, but in between, I think I was always their Christmas time tree decorator or creating the warm space for the customer, whether it be buying the plants or, setting up a coffee area for them. So I always knew I had that love of art and interior design as well as the finance side to myself. So I think me and my husband, when Jackie moved over, we thought, you know what, life is short. After going through the cancer, instead of doing something that I'm good at and is a good income, I want to do something that I love and I have a passion for. So we actually kind of downsized. We sold the farm, sold our home that was on Warm Beach, and decided to get into a little flip home instead. And
well, that was my fault, because actually when I moved over, I was thinking I'm going to get a Sprinter van, I'm going to travel a little bit, just do my art, and they were like, great idea, we're going to sell our house and come with you. And then they sold the house, and her husband got cold feet, and he's like, no, we're going to buy a flip house instead, we're going to stay. So we ended up, actually we bought a new retro motorhome down in Arizona and drove it home last year? Yeah, last summer. And so we did a little bit of travel, and we went to Greece for 3 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And we took a road trip across the country and came back last year at this time. So we've got our travel in, but yeah, it wasn't quite what I was planning.
Not full nomad yet.
And then I have always wanted a Vita bus, and so that's how this kind of came about. The Tralala was, you know what, let's figure out a business we can do together with our passions, and because she loves floral design, I do the art, and so we started looking for buses, and we ended up finding one down in San Diego, had the check in hand, we booked our flights, we flew down there, and the guy had totally photoshopped the interior images. And we're like, no way, we are not getting this bus. It's awful.
No.
Yeah. So that didn't work out, and we thought, we'll make a trip of it, and we'll go to Napa. We got a rental car to drive through Napa on the way home, and the rental car had like 1,200 miles on it, and the transmission went out. So we were like, okay, we don't get to see Napa. Go home and start over. So we found the bus that we ended up with in Bend, Oregon. So we tell the guy, okay, we want a video walkthrough before we come down there. So we booked flights, and then we had that big snowstorm that hit in that area.
In Portland.
So Karena and I are driving this bus home that we'd never, we hadn't even driven a manual in years, either of us. So it was quite a trip.
Let's just do it.
Yeah. So yeah, we just then came up with the name and the logos, and started connecting with flower vendors, and it was so well. We drove the van home, and the next morning it didn't start. So we first had to start at the mechanic shop and get everything tuned up. But it was a small fix, so it was good. But,
wow. Yeah, that's quite the drive too. And there's some, like, I've made that drive to Bend before a couple times. And there's those stretches where there's nothing.
Yes,
I'm
and
like,
that's what.
terrifying.
Well, yes, and it was doing this little stutter thing. We're like, oh, keep going. And so we knew if you pushed the gas pedal down all the way, it wouldn't do it. So we kept doing that. And Karena's like, well, Jackie, you just got to keep doing that. And I was like, we're in a 35-mile-an-hour zone. I'm not going to push the pedal, the metal. Go bombing through town. But so we were hopping our way home. So. Oh, goodness, yeah. So
Very
it's been an adventure.
And that was just day one.
Yes. Well, and then we had the late growing season, so we had everything ready to go. We were reaching out to all the local flower farms, and they're like, we don't have flowers yet, sorry. So we're like, okay, we're starting a flower business, and we don't have flowers. So luckily it worked out right before our first event to get the flowers. So It was nice, yeah. So, and it's been good since then. Everyone has been so supportive, and we didn't know, how the community would be or how they would respond, or the other floral vendors, and everyone has just been so supportive and encouraging and very welcoming. So it's been really nice to Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we've touched on it a few different times now, but it sounds like Karena started with you. Tell us a little bit about your journey with cancer and how that all unfolded.
Definitely. Well, we had a cousin who unfortunately in 2011 was diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer on our dad's side. And, my dad, having 3 girls, got a little worried and wanted us all to go get checked. And I thought, well, I'm pretty young to get checked at 34, but okay. So we all went and got checked. Well, our oldest sister found out she had precancer. So luckily she did go get checked, and she ended up having a double mastectomy. the next year, something in me just said, let's go get checked again. And Jackie's doctor had even said, no, we could wait 3 years. And I said, no, I just really think we need to go get checked. And thank goodness that we did, because I ended up, they said it was pre-cancer. So I elected for a double mastectomy. Well, in the pathology report, they found out I actually had triple negative breast cancer stage 1. So if I had not done the surgery, I wouldn't be here today. Wow. So I was very lucky at a young age. And so I went through the treatments, ACT, chemotherapy. It was about a year of treatments and reconstructive surgeries to fix some things that had happened during chemo. But it just made me really evaluate life is so short. And the finance job was amazing, but it was long days. You could easily be there 10 to 12 hours a day in that position. And I thought, you know what? I'm so appreciative of everything they've done for me, but I need to try something different. I need to experience things a little bit more and travel. That's my passion, is I want to travel internationally and through the United States. So just really changed my perspective of, life is short, and I think positive outlook, positive outcome helped me to get through it, definitely. Not being scared, just going in with I've got this. I had a great family support. If you can have that great network. My mom and dad actually moved in with us for 6 months to help out with the kids. My husband went to every single appointment. Work was great with him, being there to support me. And my brother-in-law was willing to uproot his job at a hospital in Eastern Washington to come work and live with us and take care of me. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just having that network of support to get you through those tough times. Really makes a difference.
Yeah. And were you guys, because you mentioned you went to Whidbey Island during that time for a class, was that just a getaway spot, or were you guys out there?
It was just a girls' weekend getaway, and my sister was going to be taking an art class, but I ended up getting a staph infection, so I was extremely sick and had to go to the emergency room, kind of cancel the trip short during the trip. So, but it was, so it was just one of those hurdles we had to get over as part of the treatment. So.
Yeah. Okay. So then, Jacqueline, it happened with you as well then?
Yes. Yeah. Actually, it was just this surreal kind of a weird time. Our dad had actually passed away suddenly of a heart attack, and it was very unexpected. 12 days later, my daughter gave birth 2 months early to my granddaughter, so she was in NICU, and it was very shortly after that I went in and discovered I had the cancer as well. Mine was a different kind than Karenas, but it was hormone positive and negative combo. But so, I went in, and we all did the gene testing. We're actually part of University of Washington study right now, because we have so many members of our family that have had cancer.
Really?
They're trying to find that connection. And our cousin, who originally was diagnosed, that started all the research, passed away this last summer. So she had a reoccurrence, and so that was our cross-country trip, was to go see her and say goodbye. But yeah, so I also, I tested positive for RAD51C gene, which is like 1% of the population has that. So they did hysterectomy, they did the mastectomy, and then I ended up with adhesive capsulitis in my shoulder from the surgery, which then spread to the other side. So I had basically frozen shoulder on both sides. For a year and a half. I was walking around like a penguin. So that halted my art for a little bit. But yeah, I just persisted with, I dove into research on nutrition and health and environmental causes, and so I learned a lot, which was really good. I was already vegan before that, but that I just went, more into juicing and supplements, and just extremely, just being very careful of what I'm putting on my body and my body. And so, I've made full recovery. My older sister and I have found some skin cancer, so we've been dealing with that as well. But just like Karena said, it's that positive environment that gets you through all those things, and just having that support and good friends, good family, people reaching out and just embracing you, helping you through it. I think it just makes a huge difference. So. Yeah, so we just both have that, life is short. So, what better time to go experience it, and not be stuck in a rut. So, yeah.
Well, thank you, both of you, for sharing that. It's just with my interactions with you guys here at the Commons and when you've been at different events and stuff, You guys are both just so joyful and such a positive energy. And, I think a lot of people, they can go through things like that, and they can kind of go either way. They can kind of go deeper into that depression of like, well, now what's going to happen, or they can decide they're going to push through and not just survive, but excel and thrive in that. So, yeah, that's very cool that you guys. Not cool that it's happened,
Right.
but your guys is in life. We don't get to choose what happens to us. We get to choose how we react to what happens to us.
Exactly. Yes. That's what my counselor said.
So, awesome. So then, all of this, you've mentioned how you guys got the bus, but you guys said that even from the beginning, you guys knew that you wanted to do something together. What were, just for fun, what are some of the other ideas or thoughts that you guys had of starting businesses together with?
Well, we actually first started with Monate.
Yes.
It's
So
organic
yes.
products, because we knew that would be good for not only our health but to help others and share the information. But we're not as comfortable on Instagram and Facebook of doing getting the followers by doing the algorithm rules of pointing at stuff or doing the dances or doing the things that don't see. That seems silly. I know that they're not. They're popular, but they're just. We both just
felt cliche.
Yes, it just wasn't us. So we're like, well.
And also, I was taking a medication for my cancer that was thinning my hair out really bad, and so selling a shampoo while you have really thin hair is like just not. I wasn't the greatest role model for a rep for the company, so it just wasn't a good fit for us. So we tried it for a little bit. We have a lot of products still at home. If anybody needs some shampoo,
it's great. It's a great company, great products,
and great people. The team we had, we're working with, they're doing great things, and so
my sister did it for a little
Did
while.
she? Okay.
I think she still has the product, but I think she's
same
no longer
thing.
repping.
Yes. So we did that. We had also then went through all the hoops, got all the licensing to become notaries. Mobile notaries. So that was going to be the next thing. And it just, that also is not our, Karena's like, what are we doing? This is just more paperwork. And it's like, I'm already in finance and having to do paperwork. And this isn't fun. So then we, like, okay, well, we had that in our back pocket, but okay, what do we really want to do that's fun? And I have been painting for a while since moving back over here, and I thought, I need to get my work out there. I need to get some exposure, and but I always let that fear of, what if I'm not good enough, hold me back. And so, so with this, I have gotten so much more exposure, and people reaching out and people embracing and saying, I'd love to have your work in my place. And so I've got some really good connections now with some people. Yeah, so that's been going well, and.
I think the love of flowers too. It's like everybody loves flowers, whether it be for, and they need them, whether it be a good occasion, a sad occasion, a I'm sorry occasion. Everybody needs flowers. So we're like, you know what? At the time, we didn't think there were very many mobile build your own bouquet bars in the area. So we just thought, you know what? Let's give this a try. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll learn along the way. And I think, we're kind of shifting the direction of where the company is going based on response and what we need to thrive, but it's been a lot of fun along the way. So
yes, we've met so many people, and that's been great because we're both kind of the introverted personality, but when you push yourself and get out there in the public and just having those conversations with people from other states that are like, oh, I know someone who's doing this, or oh, I just love this idea, this is so fun, and just people that you would never connect with normally. You'd maybe talk to someone online or whatever, but just getting out there and having people like, I'm buying flowers for someone I hate. Have you ever done that? It's like, what do you mean? Oh, my mother-in-law. I can't stand her, but I'm going to buy flowers for her. It's like, well, that's great. Okay. And then we had two people in a row that came up, and the next guy comes up. Do you ever buy flowers for someone you hate? And it's like, what is this day? Surreal. But yeah, or a lady coming up in tears. Her dad had just passed away the day before, and she was getting flowers for her mom. So you get to hear all the stories of, we're getting engaged, and do you do weddings, and so it's been so nice just to meet the community that we live in, and being able to travel to some other communities as well, and people, oh, we saw you online, we had to come down and say hi, and
cool.
So yeah, we've been getting some recognition that way, I think, just because the bus is so fun, and the online presence, people are starting to talk, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, I was looking at your guys' Instagram prior to the podcast and stuff, and it looks like you guys figured out your own little rhythm of how you do it, and you guys produce nice little videos and fun things like
that's
that.
been a lot of work.
Yes.
A learning curve. Like, hey, what do I do? And luckily I have 5 daughters who are all, in that, Mom, you got to try this, you got to do that, you got to. So yeah, it's a lot of work keeping up on social media, but you have to do it. You have to make that, so people know you're out there.
Right.
So.
Well, keeping up on it, and then what always gets me when it comes to it is like, you watch these like 15 to 30-second videos that take an hour or so to produce.
Yes, or if you're someone like me, it's like 5 hours later. It's like, what song really goes with this? I don't know. And you're scrolling through all the music. Like, be quiet, I can't hear this song.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's definitely it's a
challenge.
lot of work.
It's
and then
a
like
challenge.
Responding and
Right.
interacting and
Yes,
all those things.
yeah,
it's not like you get the post out and
It's
you're
not,
done.
yes, it's not just a simple little, and then, Karena's like, did you remember to do this? Did you remember to do that? Oh, no, I forgot. Okay, I need a list.
Or she posts to her other account and she's like, I keep posting to my personal account.
I
instead
have
of
a
the business
personal account for my art, and then I have the business account, and I always end up on the wrong one. It's like, oh, that wasn't supposed to go to that account.
And it doesn't, there's no way to like copy and paste it, so you have to redo everything you just did.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. But I figured, I'm kind of doing a little bit of both with my art and the flowers, so it's okay if we intermingle a little bit.
Yeah. Nice.
So
in there, you guys mentioned that you initially thought there wasn't a lot of pop-up bouquet flower things.
Yes.
Something has changed your mind on that?
Well, we're discovering more. People are like, there's a gal that's bringing one up from Texas that's parked in La Conner now, and there's Antique Flower Truck in Snohomish, and she travels around a little bit too. I think she's mostly Snohomish area, and she has a gorgeous antique truck. I don't know if you've seen it. It's really pretty.
Or the flower, the trailer, the Arlington.
Oh, yeah,
they've
Flourish.
turned hers
So
into.
we've started to meet some. We haven't met all of them yet, but we've met some. They're all super nice people, and we get flowers from the same sources, so we end up seeing posts and connecting that way too. Getting to see where others are at. But I know that there's so much room for flowers everywhere, so it's not like it's a competitive vibe or any of that. So it's great, and it just in fact brings awareness up even more. So
And do you guys? What are some things that you guys do? Maybe as differentiators or things that everyone's going to have their slight different twist on this.
Right. Well, the artwork for sure is it, because a lot of times I'll set up several pieces of art, which most of the floral vendors have just the flowers. And we've also talked about incorporating. We've done some plants. We've talked about incorporating candles and just some other quicker grab and go. Fun things that go well with flowers. So Karena does cookies, but
I had one of the cookies when you guys were out here, and whenever someone tells me it's like vegan or gluten free or something, I'm always like, okay, I'll try it. But like those were really good.
So,
wasn't it?
Yeah, I love to bake, so that's another fun spin. We were just trying to think outside the box to incorporate other things to draw people in and share with the community. So.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. So, you guys have just gotten through this has been your first summer, right?
Correct.
With everything?
Mm-hmm.
How did your first summer go?
It was good. I felt like, we've gotten a lot of good exposure. We've gotten to know a lot of the community members and the other businesses that have also been super supportive of, we'd love to have you park at our place. We're having this event. Here's the winery event. All of these different sources of places to go, and meeting the people has just been incredible. We're learning things about, like growing your own flowers, you're going to make a lot more money profit-wise. And so it's been, trial and error as far as gauging how many flowers to have on the bus for a certain event, because you just don't know.
Yeah.
We've been up at Christensen Nursery on weekends, and there's so many people up there that already grow their own. So they're like, oh, your dahlias are gorgeous. Mine are. And then they launch into about their own flowers, so they're not going to buy. So then, we have leftover flowers that day, but then we get connections with the art, and, oh, you need to be in this gallery, and I teach art, and, here's my card, that kind of thing. So every event we've had good connections or feedback from someone that makes it worth doing the event.
Yeah.
So that's been good. And so, it's been a great journey so far.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And it's fun, too, just to be able to find, usually at one event, we'll find one person like, oh, they look like they could use a bouquet, or they look like they could use a flower. And it's fun to get to brighten people's days as well as we go about the journey. That's a fun part of this.
Surprising them, yeah. Yes. You actually have a little couple who comes here on Saturdays that we've noticed, and so Karena ran over and handed her a bouquet one day through the window. She's like, what is this for? And it's like, because you just look like you're a fun couple and you need a bouquet of flowers. So
nice.
So
That's awesome.
It's fun being able to do that.
Very cool. So then, now that you guys kind of have this first summer under your belt, what do you guys kind of see as your next steps, and what are things that you want to change and advance in the company?
I would definitely think if we can get a brick and mortar, whether it be out of our home or in a location, I think that will keep us busier on a daily basis as far as having a customer base and returning customers and just letting them know that we are here and that we're available and consistent.
Definitely, yes. And then, like I said, getting my artwork, I've been making connections and putting it into different locations, so that really will help with exposure as well. But yeah, I think definitely getting into more products and besides just flowers. And we're also steering, like I said, towards the corporate events as well regarding the flowers, because it just is a win-win, because they get the business right off, the employees get appreciated, and your flowers are sold for the day. So
yes, yeah.
So yeah, those are kind of some of the avenues that we're planning on.
Nice.
Working towards, yeah.
Very cool. And on the new product stuff, like candles, stuff like that, are those things that you're looking to make in-house, or are you trying to find good vendors in the area?
Probably a little bit of both. We have been making some connections with other people, so we have some sources, but we love treasure hunting and just those vintage finds. We'd like to be doing some of that art as well. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. And then what are you guys kind of planning? I mean, as we move into the winter months, you guys can't do pop-ups as much. What are you guys kind of looking at as we hit winter?
I'll be painting a lot more.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll probably be focusing on seeing what we can do for getting the brick and mortar, whether that be tackling, redoing a garage basically and converting it into our workspace, artist studio. Probably be open on weekends for people to be able to come in and hunt for the treasures and the finds and Jackie's art. And we're getting into ceramic classes, so I think we're hoping to be able to do our own mugs and pottery and candles.
Yes,
with
yeah,
the
we took
ceramics.
our first pottery class a couple months ago, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
So we made all this high school looking pottery, but I did make some good mugs. They were pretty cute. Yeah.
Very cool.
But yeah, you can't.
I teased her I might have to stick to the baking the first couple classes, but no, it's going good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
We've I've met different people that do have thrown pottery and stuff like that, and some people, like a lot of people I've talked to, like they just loved it. Like immediately, they were like, I didn't like this or this type of art, but like I did this, and I immediately connected with it.
It was very therapeutic. I just felt like, you go there and you just get to the wheel and you're making a mess, but you're having fun and you're just not thinking about anything else. So it's just a lot of fun just to get in there and get your hands on and create, even if it's ugly. It's still so much fun.
Yeah. Very cool. All right. Well, I like to end every podcast with some rapid fire questions. So the first one is, what purchase of $100 or less have you enjoyed the most in the last 3 months?
I'd say our pottery kit, because we got to do the pottery. It's a lot of fun.
I think in the end of August, my husband had taken us to dinner at Azteca, and it would have been my parents' anniversary. And a couple came in, and it was their 52nd anniversary. Just the sweetest couple sat behind us, and my husband just said, you know what, I want to buy their dinner. I want to buy their drinks. And so their granddaughter actually happened to be one of the waitresses. So he called her over, and she's like, well, all they're doing is sharing a tequila. He's like, they're sharing it? Yeah, they just share a tequila. They already had dinner. They're not hungry. And he ended up buying them a gift certificate for another time to go and use. And it was touching to me that, that would have been our parents' anniversary date. They were celebrating theirs, and it was just a nice thing to do. So it made us feel good when we left to know that we participated a little bit in their anniversary.
Yes, yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Who is the most influential person outside of your family in your life?
Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus is mine. He's always got my back.
I would have to agree, Jesus. And then there's so many great mentors out there. I think if, whether it be on the financial side of things, people I've met through the auto industry, or the people we're meeting right now through the business we're doing right now. I think if you just can take a little bit from everybody, take their mentorship, their advice, their guidance, it just makes you more successful.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, this is a fill in the blank question. I know this is weird, but I've always wanted to blank.
Write a book.
Write a book?
Write a book.
Very cool.
Yes.
I have a fear of heights, but I've always wanted to learn how to fly a plane. So
Okay.
that's weird.
Nice. It's a little different, right? Because you're in control of it.
Right. That's
if you had said, I want to go skydiving, I'd have been like, okay.
You are crazy.
All right. Who is an interesting or fascinating person that I should interview next?
Have you ever been interviewed yourself?
Yes.
You have? Okay. So that'd be one. Oh, I think there's so many people in this community. That's a hard one to... there's so many badass women out there running businesses, the Camano shop, the Stanwood Cupcakes, Just James, Ladders. She's got 2 locations. So there's just so many. It would be hard to pick one.
Yes. Very cool.
Yeah.
All right. And then lastly, what piece of advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I would say don't let fear stand in your way of achieving dreams or going after your dreams, because so many people hesitate and they talk themselves out of things, because they doubt themselves. And I still tell myself, it's like, what are you afraid of? Just do it, just talk to the person and what's the worst thing that can happen, So I think just, even if you don't know all the answers or have everything figured out, just start and go after what you want to go after.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, don't sweat the small stuff. Things that when you're in your 20s can seem like such big deals really aren't, and you'll get through it, and just keep that positive attitude and keep moving forward.
Yes. Yeah. Very cool. Well, thank you both so much for joining me on the podcast today.
you're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure.
And Islanders, I will talk to you on the next one. Well, a big thank you to Karena and Jacqueline for joining me on the podcast today, and thank you for listening. Remember, if you have any ideas about how I could update the format of this podcast, email me at voice@CamanoCommons or send me a message on Instagram @the Camano Voice. And for more information on this episode, you can go to CamanoCommons.com/podcast. That's CamanoCommons.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.